The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
We're back on the left versus the right. He's Jake Novak, and I'm David Paterson. Happy to have you along on a Saturday afternoon, the day before the Israel Day Parade, and we've got to talk about that because some of the thoughts and remarks going back and forth are hideous. Wouldn't you say that, Jake?
They're pretty bad, but, you know, all I know is the Israel Day Parade, ever since the Long Island Railroad opened that new station, they call it Grand Central, but it's not. It's Madison and 48th, but whatever. It's become so much easier to attend anything on the east side, especially on a weekend. I mean, I used to spend hours at the parade and then hours getting back to Penn Station. So, you know, I'm still, and it looks like the weather's going to be nice, so I'm pretty happy about it.
And yet, they're just... still seem to be these kind of anti-Semitic references, statements that the mayor said he's not going to the parade. Now he says, because he doesn't think that Israel is a fully recognized state. You know, the week before was some other issue, and it really is showing a contempt, in my opinion, for the rest of the people who live around the city. When I was governor, there were some things that I thought about, you know, but I would never have said them publicly because it wasn't like I was trying to start something. It was just opinions I had about issues that I knew would be too controversial if I brought them up. But this guy, it doesn't bother him at all.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there's a lot of duplicity here, you know. So the argument that he and some other Democrats are making for not going to the parade is that they don't support the government of Israel. So if there's a Russian festival or a Greek festival, do you not attend because you don't like Putin or whoever the heck is running Greece right now? You know, what about the San Gennaro festival? You don't send cops there or go make an appearance there because you don't like whoever the president of Prime Minister of Italy is, or you don't like the Pope. It's such a joke, and it's so obviously a duplicitous and not honest statement. So there's that. It's really quite frustrating. I know Sid, you know, on his show, Sid and Friends has been talking about it all week. If you don't think Israel should exist as a state, then yeah, we don't want you to come to the parade. But the best thing to do would have been for him to have said, I'm not going. Everyone knows I have an opposition to Israel as a state, and not to pretend it's about Netanyahu or the current government, which is such a lie. And just say, but I'm sending the best police protection, and we will make sure that it's a safe and fun event. Have a good time. I'm not going. And that would have been honorable.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Honorable and perfect because it's easy to say, I don't agree with you. You don't have to like my point of view, but I have an obligation as mayor, and I'm going to fulfill it because God forbid anything really violent or tragic happens at that parade, it's going to be right at his doorstep. Yeah. And this time, he won't be able to come up with some flurry of ideology as to why that kind of thing happened.
Yeah, 2 points about that. One is, you know, there have been some people I know who generally, and they have the record to back them up, who have generally been supportive of Israel over the years, sometimes even pretty strongly so, who in recent years have said, like, well, I've been getting a lot of pressure. You know, like they're taking it too far. Now, people are making me do these kind of loyalty tests about Israel, and they're really, and, you know, Jews can be pushy. We can, mostly it's the complaining kind of pushy, but, you know, but none of them ever say, I mean, I know that there are some people who aren't that smart in their personal interactions, but none of them ever say I want to know the name of the lobbyist who pressured you and said you're not being pro-Israel enough, especially with people who have a good Israel record. I want to know who those are. And I think that it turns out to be, Governor, is it turns out to be somebody on social media who was getting on them, which may or may not be a real person, which certainly doesn't count as an official lobbyist or a spokesperson.
It has nothing to do with their day-to-day activities.
Yeah, give me a break. You know, I mean, come on, guys. I think that there's probably some people being a little too pushy. I get it. But I think that I need to hear the name of the actual official or the actual lobbyist who sat down with someone with a really great Israel record and was angry that they weren't hopping too fast enough. It's a myth. It's a legend. It's offensive, and nobody has any names to tell me anything. So, and you know, for those who say, well, it's AIPAC. I'm a critic of AIPAC from the right. The AIPAC, just as soon as that Iran deal was signed in 2015, was not only not boycotting a number of the Democrats who supported it in Congress, they were still holding like fundraisers for them or events for them, like Cory Booker. You know, so give me a break. I mean, it's not true. And this idea that there's just too much pressure and they control everything, you know, what a joke. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind when you talk about these kinds of things. And, you know, the parade is really it's very similar to the St. Patrick's Day parade in that every Jewish organization pretty much sends people to represent their part of the community or their organization. It's not like, you know, it's not like it's not like the Rose Parade, you know? It's not like that. Right. There's not a lot of cool displays. There's cool music. People play the music. But it's just fun to see. You go there, as I've been going ever since I was a kid, you go there to see maybe your friends who you haven't seen in a long time. And then maybe afterwards get a nice meal in Manhattan. That's what you do. Yeah.
In 24 hours, we'll see how this parade goes. And hopefully it will be safe. And hopefully nobody will do anything to antagonize anyone else. But speaking of that, what do you think of these, these fights that get started at the kindergarten graduation and people storming into a bar and beating up the people in the bar? I thought that you went to a bar and then you went outside and beat people up. But, it must be a new type of bar that I'm unfamiliar with.
Well, this is reminiscent of Germany in the late 20s. They did bar, the Nazi movement did start in the beer halls, and there was violence in the beer. People think like, they gathered there and they gave their speeches, and they also beat people up in those beer halls. Yeah. The next place it took hold were the elite, and they were absolutely elite. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Elite German universities. So it was from the lower branches of, I guess, of secular culture to the highest
of education.
That. Yeah, well before they made any foothold anywhere else. So people who say like, I can't believe these universities have become so anti-Semitic. Why? Is there any? They have a long history of this. So, but it's funny. This reminds me of something that somebody wrote, and I forgot the name of the author, but people can look it up on your search engine of choice because this was the title of the article, and it was in Tablet magazine. And the article, the title was, "You may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you."
Yeah,
they're not leaving people alone. They're getting involved in sports. We're going to talk about that in another segment. They're getting involved in every aspect of our lives, whether it's a kindergarten graduation, a sports thing. And that's why I don't think we need to train our kids to be activists. But if you're in a community, whether it's Christian, Jewish, or a political, you need to educate your children and let them know this could happen and what you need to do. First of all, be safe. Best not to engage. But if you are forced to engage in a situation where you're still safe to do so, here are some of the things you should know. But I think it's sad. I hate when politics is inserted in places where it doesn't belong. And it doesn't belong in most places, frankly. And we're seeing it now, and I'm seeing it for a long time. And I wonder if people think, like, do you think that people like Governor Paterson and I haven't seen this before, don't know our history? I mean, it's nothing new, dudes. So maybe you have to try something new.
WABC 77, The Left versus the Right. Jake Novak with David Paterson. And to your point, there seem to be more and more really outrageous activity. And I'm not talking about the beer hall mobs anymore. I'm talking about the elected officials. Now, you made reference to it a little while ago, where it's sort of like we're not getting our share of business in our districts. So therefore, we would like for all the kindergartners to walk outside when the cameras come on and pull their pants down. Like something so outrageous that I can't even believe somebody would think of that. And, of course, this is the whole issue about trying to get the college athletes to boycott games. Many of these schools, as you pointed out to me off the air, are not even involved in this process, but trying to get them to boycott the games to as a retaliation for the redistricting in these states. These two entities have nothing to do with each other. I probably wouldn't like the way they redistricted. I probably would even think that it would be more unfair than it is fair. But if I thought that, I think I could find a better way to try to rally the troops and motivate people than this type of thing, because this is the type of activity we used to deplore when it happened years ago.
Yeah.
In other areas.
It's amazing. It's still a huge pathway to success for minority people, especially the athletic scholarships to major universities. And, you're specifically talking about Hakeem Jeffries. For Hakeem Jeffries, the leading congressional Democrat in the House Minority Leader, to tell young black athletes that they should boycott, if they're already on the school, they should either transfer out or they shouldn't play for any of the SEC teams, especially, and when you're talking about football and baseball, and they're not too shabby in basketball either, Governor. Pretty good. That they shouldn't play. To protest what? The redistricting. What do the universities have to do with the redistricting? Well, someone could say a lot of the universities are state schools, and the state legislature's done the redistricting. I mean, how many more 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon do you want to play? These universities have nothing to do with the redistricting process. They just don't. So just stop. And the idea is white fans and white Republican fans, Trump fans who like SEC football in particular, will get really angry at President Trump and the Republicans if somehow the quality of SEC football falls to the wayside. First of all, that shows a tremendous ignorance of what a lot of college sports is about. Yes, we want to see high-quality athletes and high-quality games, but it's about the rivalries. People watching a bunch of 80-year-old grannies in an Alabama, a uniform going up against another 80-year-old granny in an Auburn university. There'll still be a lot of fans coming into that game. I'm making an extreme example here, but that's really not understanding the way things work. And to take away these opportunities from these young people. He wants these young people to sacrifice. Child sacrifice, Governor, is something rooted in our collective DNA. Just because we don't throw them in the middle of the volcano anymore, I see child sacrifice everywhere I look, Governor, whether it's this trans stuff with children, whether it's putting kindergarteners and actually making them go walk in a protest against ICE, which we've seen, or this. These are still not adults. These are still younger than 21-year-olds who are being sacrificed for your political agenda, for your paganism. And I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it, and people should be ashamed. And it just reminded me one last thing of how on the other side of the coin, when I was in college from 1988 to 1992, and it was 88 or 89.
And what college was that you went to?
Yes, we're both Columbia University undergrads. I think we're both on the naughty list at Columbia as undergrads, but that doesn't matter as alums. But the point being, John Thompson was the coach of Georgetown at the time, and he was walking out of middle of the games, Georgetown basketball games, and this was no slouch of a Georgetown team. This was a Georgetown team that was really good. It wasn't the Patrick Ewing team, but it was the Alonzo Mourning team and that kind of thing. He was walking out because of a push to make the SAT scores rise if you wanted to get an athletic scholarship, and he was angry about that and the opportunities that was taking away from his and other black athletes. And now we have them. We have a congressman asking them to give up this opportunity voluntarily to protest something that the universities themselves have nothing even indirectly to do with.
I have some breaking news.
Yeah,
breaking news. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has called on the New York Knicks to boycott the first game of the NBA Finals, which will be on Tuesday, and we'll come to a conclusion after that first game whether or not there should be a second boycott. So now...
let's talk about that a little bit, though, because... let's talk about the Knicks, because I'm sitting here with Governor Paterson, who is, I believe, a Knicks expert, and it's interesting. The Knicks situation has... Now, in this case, there has been some politics inserted into it, because, Mayor Mamdani was asked, well, what do you think about President Trump coming to either Game 3 or Game 4, which will be at Madison Square Garden. We don't know who the Knicks are going to play. We'll find out tonight. But we know that they'll be the team that gets Game 3 and Game 4, right? I mean, they're not going to get the home court advantage.
Right.
And Mamdani's answer is like, I will allow it, which a lot of people were laughing at. Like, what do you mean you're going to allow it?
You'll
like,
allow it?
Yeah. What kind of joke is that? And then you had Governor Kathy Hochul making I hope she was misreading it, but it's possible her staff was just dumb enough to write this for her, where she said, well, if Trump's going to go to that game, I would like to ask him to tell me the starting lineup of the 1993 Knicks championship team, which, of course, they did not win the championship in 93. Probably, I'm hoping that it was just she didn't look at it right. We all know that 73 was the last Knicks championship. But, we've had the two big political names here in New York, Hochul and Mamdani, I think, making asses of themselves already, and they haven't even started the finals yet.
Well, what's we'll find out which of the Western Division teams are going to play the Knicks, and they'll have home court advantage because they had a better record during the season. But there's just something that is galling to me about this type of response and rhetoric. I mean, back years ago in the early 60s, when Martin Luther King, when they were marching in the South and most of the marchers got arrested, they sent the children the next day. Now, that was risky and you could question that as well, but it was just a far more serious subject than what we're carrying on now. I can't believe that we're actually sitting here talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. We could have a different show about the whole problem with college recruiting and the professionalization of college sports at the highest levels.
Absolutely.
My one happy connection with Columbia is with the athletics there, because these are real students in the Ivy League, especially at a place like Columbia where you need to make an incredible commitment to be an athlete there. You don't get an athletic scholarship. If you have a need-based financial situation, you'll get a need-based scholarship. But
you still have to go to a difficult school
real
and
classes.
Hand in papers and answer questions in class and pass final exams.
Yeah, and take a bus ride up to 218th Street for football and soccer and baseball and lacrosse. I mean, most of the sports that Columbia, other than basketball and the indoor sports, you got to go up there. Although that's been made into a much nicer experience than it used to be in the 70s. And Mayor Giuliani gave the Columbia University buses an exemption to go up at the West Side Highway and get to the facilities there. So that helped. But nevertheless, it's a huge sacrifice. But at these professionalized levels with NIL deals and things like that, this is really asking these kids to sacrifice so much for again, if it were the universities that were responsible in some way for this redistricting, maybe you could make this argument, but they're not even remotely responsible for it. What is he doing?
And, also there's just the issue of why this is the only way that the Democrats, and I'm one of them, are expressing their indignation about something. You have a right in this country to express your indignation. And I guess maybe you have a right to ask other people to do it as well, but they're not really people who are vested on this issue. They're college athletes. And they really, need to be allowed to go and play their game and then worry about next week. So I guess while the audience is kvetching about this along with you and me, Jake, we'll give our sponsors a chance to come on and talk about what they'd like to provide, and then we'll be back in a couple of minutes with more of the left versus the right.